Seconds. Is that 7:30 or 7:31? Good evening, everybody. I call the Bethany City Council meeting for Tuesday, June 18, 2019 to order. Please stand for prayer and the flag salute. Matt, will you pray for us tonight? And Mr. Todd, will you lead the flag salute?
Dear God, we thank you for this night, for all who have gathered, interested in the community, fellow citizens. We pray wisdom and guidance over this time, and we are very grateful for your leading in this work. Please stand. Amen.
Attention. Salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1 is consent docket A through G. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is consideration and possible approval of resolution number 1544, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bethany, Oklahoma, adopting the fiscal year 2020 budget for the general fund, miscellaneous funds, and various public trusts, affirming the authority of the city manager to make transfers within the general fund, appropriating funds from the capital improvement fund for specified equipment and projects, and establishing a target emergency reserve fund balance. Do I have a motion or any questions?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Are we not supposed to have some discussion over it if there's,
I asked if anybody had a question, so yeah.
excuse me?
Do you have a question or comment?
Well, I'll just vote no. That's fine.
You don't have a question or comment?
I have some issues with some of the expenditures, but I was not here for the last meeting, and I'll deal with it. Thank you.
I have a motion, I have a second. Please cast your votes. Item 3 is consideration, discussion, and possible approval of resolution number 1545, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bethany, Oklahoma, appointing Beth Ann Childs as the interim city attorney effective June 5th, 2019 through September 5th, 2019, or until such time as the City Council appoints a permanent city attorney, whichever comes first, and approving and authorizing the execution of a professional services agreement with the Childs Law Firm, PLLC, setting forth the terms of the representation and compensation. Do I have a motion or any questions?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 4 is consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the City Council handbook. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 5, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of resolution number 1550, authorizing the participation in the OMAG recognition program. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 6, consideration and possible approval of Resolution 1546, authorizing OMAG to distribute workers' compensation escrow account funds to reduce our 2019-2020 premium and approve 2019-2020 renewal participation agreement. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Items 7, 8, and 9 are all three proposed executive sessions. 7 is consideration and possible approval to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing fiscal year 2020 collective bargaining agreement between the City of Bethany and FOP Lodge 161. Item 8 is consideration and possible approval to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing fiscal year 2020 collective bargaining agreement between the City of Bethany and IAFF Local 2085. And item 9 is for purposes of discussing actual candidates for the positions of city manager and city attorney as authorized by 25 Oklahoma statutes, section 307B1, which provides authorization for an executive session for purposes of discussing the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of any individual salaried public officer or employee. In the opinion of the interim city attorney, this executive session is authorized by law. Do I have a motion to go
May
into
I ask
executive session?
something?
Excuse me?
Could we vote on 9 and 10 separately from 7 and 8, please?
What's the purpose in that?
To see if we want to go in an executive session, discuss items that we don't have to discuss in executive session. I feel like the bargaining needs to be in an executive session, but I'd like for us to vote on 9 and 10. That's a privilege, I think.
You mean
It's not mandatory.
7, 8, and 9?
So we vote on 7 and 8 separately from 9 and 10.
10 is just the action, so that one is not. Yeah, how do we work that if I've already put these three together? Can we separate those?
Who made the, I'm sorry, can you talk in the microphone? Who made the initial motion?
That was not a motion, it was a question. She just asked a question.
No,
Palmer.
no, but
Did
I thought
somebody
somebody
motion?
made a motion to go into
No.
executive session. Okay, then, yes, I mean, you
Okay.
can separate those if you like.
Okay.
So,
Then I'll make a motion for going into executive session for item number 7 and 8.
As a point of order, do we have to have a separate motion for Councilperson Larson's motion to split up the executive session? How does that work?
well, I mean, I could go back and look at the rules of order, I mean, in order to do that, but it's going to take me a minute to do that. So I'm happy to do that, but I was just thinking for purposes of expediency, you may want to, consider them separately. So, but I'm happy to go back and research it if you like.
I would prefer that we vote on them separately.
I don't mind you researching it. Doesn't bother me either.
I would make a motion for a brief adjournment while she researches that. Would that be?
I can take a recess, can I not? Okay.
Thank you.
We will recess.
So
Do I need a motion to recess?
I just have a quick question. So you don't want to discuss number 9? You don't
I
want-
did not say I didn't want to discuss it. I wanted to vote on 9 and 10 as whether we go into executive session or not. Because I don't think that executive session is mandatory in that situation. I think it's that we get to
For a personnel
for
decision?
for these two. Now, the collective bargaining, because it's more specific, I do feel like we need to be in an executive session for that. But I don't know that we need to be for 9 and 10.
Well, 10 is just the action, so it's not actually, we're not voting on that right now.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to recess the city council while the city attorney looks to provide an opinion related to my question as to whether the council as a whole has to vote on the motion made by councilperson.
Okay,
Larson.
do I have a second?
I second.
Please cast your votes on whether we're going into recess.
Go into recess.
Okay.
I appreciate the opportunity to take a look at this, and hopefully, I'm doing this correctly. Sometimes it is pretty tough to render an opinion on the fly, and so I apologize if I get it wrong. Sometimes I do. But in this particular case, there is a motion, well, there was a motion for recess, but there was a motion that was made by Councilmember Larson to go into executive session for items 7 and 8. Okay, so that motion is currently on up. Now, the mayor could call for a second, and if there is a second, then it'll move forward with a vote. If not, then it dies for lack of a second. So, I'm sorry.
Then would those line items die, agenda items
They,
die?
they would not, because her specific motion was to go into executive session for items 7 and 8. Am I saying this correctly? So, her motion would die for lack of a second. So just hypothetically speaking, if another council member says, move to go into executive session to discuss items 7, 8, and 9, and that was seconded, then it would move forward. Does that make sense? Okay.
Recess is over. Reminder to council, no cell phone use on the horseshoe during the meeting. That was acceptable during the little recess, but not now. I have a motion to go in executive session for 7 and 8. Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. You don't want to go in executive session for those?
So go into executive session and discuss those and then come
Yeah, okay. Motion
The
passed.
council will go into executive session for those 2 items, and then item 9 come back, they'll come back, return, and then the council will consider item 9.
I can make motion to go into executive session for item 9. Are we going to come back then?
We're gonna come back.
Okay.
We are out of executive session. Item 9, I've already read it, proposed executive session for, really don't want to read this again, purposes of discussing actual candidates for the position of city manager and city attorney, as authorized by 25 Oklahoma statutes, section 307B1, which does provide authorization for an executive session for purposes of discussing the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, and resignation of any individual, salaried public officer, or employee. In the opinion of the interim city attorney, this executive session is authorized by law. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Please cast your votes. Thank you. We will return.
Get my steps in tonight.
Thank you for your patience. There's no action taken. In executive session. There's no action coming out of executive session. Item 11 is citizens' opportunity to address the council on general topics related to city business or services. You have a 3-minute limit. No action may be taken on matters under this item. Is there anybody here tonight that would like to address the council? Please step forward and give us your name and address. Item 12, city attorney's report.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Item 13 is city manager's report, and sitting in interim city manager's seat tonight is Economic Development Director Hank Moore, who was recently named, promoted, given additional responsibilities, however you want to say it, by Ken Smart to be also the assistant city manager. Do you have anything?
The only thing I had is that we had a meeting today with all the interested parties related to the restoration and installation of the Blue Goose aircraft in Eldon Park. And we are looking at probably sometime mid-fall, late September, October for that to actually occur. So this has been something on the radar for the city for 10-plus years, so we'll be glad to accomplish that. And that's all, sir.
Thank you. Item 14, mayor and council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. This evening, let's start down with Ms. Sandoval.
Thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, happy Pride. As you all can see, there's a lot going on within City Hall. We all want you to stay involved and really appreciate everyone's patience tonight. I did want to share that we are working towards initiating a potential Bethany Disabilities Council, and we would love public input. We hope to see y'all this weekend for our movie on the lawn. And before I finish, I would like to recognize Juneteenth, which is tomorrow. This is a date that is important because as a result, all former black slaves were freed. It's a day of liberation and a holiday all Americans should celebrate. Como todos ustedes pueden ver, hay mucho que está ocurriendo en este municipio. Queremos que todos ustedes estén involucrados y se queden involucrados. Quería compartir que estamos trabajando para iniciar un Bethany concejal para personas con discapacidades y nos encantaría participación de la comunidad. Los esperamos este fin de semana para una película gratuita. Antes de terminar, gustaría reconocer Juneteenth, que es el día importante porque como resultado todos los esclavos fueron liberados. Es un día de liberación y que todo estadounidense debería de celebrar. Thank you.
Thank you. From now on, because most of us in this room right here don't speak Spanish, we do have a translator or interpreter that is willing to come over from dispatch. We just need to have a heads up when you aren't going to speak in Spanish. I have no problem with it. I think we just need to have an interpreter. So if you just give me a heads up, then we'll get them over here, or her over here. Thank you. Matt?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mr. Todd? Mr. Palmer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know what Councilperson Sandoval just said in Spanish. I'd like a translation. I hope it was good. We'll find out, but I know it was, actually. So we had a last meeting with the police chief in the Bethany District Neighborhood Association. It was very productive. It's on Facebook if you'd like to look at it. And I think if you can do that, Chief did a great job of answering all of our questions, and I would like to thank him publicly for doing that. Assistant Chief Reed was there as well, and he gave us some good advice on Neighborhood Watch. So all that attended were able to get their questions answered, and again, I want to thank him for doing that. We also had a traffic committee meeting related to the issue of parking in and around the school on 45th and 46th, and we have determined that we're going to talk to the school and the city manager and determine how best to approach that issue and maybe come up with a policy between the city and the school. So I wanted to make a public announcement related to that. And I would also want to reiterate my previous requests related to the overlay Title 15 and the Del City ordinance that I previously did in the last city council meeting in my public comment. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very excited about the Blue Goose being completed and installed in Eldon Lyon Park. There's no renderings or drawings yet, but I think the public will very much appreciate when that does go up. If no one has heard about the Blue Goose, it was the prototype for the first Air Force One, built right here in Bethany. And lastly, I want to just reiterate what Councilmember Sandoval said. This Saturday night, movie on the lawn, lots of fun activities starting at 7 on 23rd Street at the Bethany Behavioral Health. Fun activities, food trucks, and the movie starts at 9 or thereabouts as it gets dark enough to watch The Princess Bride. Thank you.
Mr. Herron?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing.
SR?
Just like to say thank you to all the people in the audience tonight. I know it's difficult when we go into executive session and you're left out here alone, but there's some that the same faces are here every weekend, and we do appreciate that. I wish the place was totally full every council meeting. In addition, we've got July the 4th coming up. We have a great parade in the city of Bethany, so would encourage everybody. It's just a little over 2 weeks away, so get your family members and kids out, and it's always a good time for everyone. On a on a different note, we've had a lot of rain. A lot of the grass is tall. We can't get out there and mow, so I know there's been some complaints down in Ward 4 and some enforcement issues down there, that there's still a lot of places that for whatever reason have not been able to mow, and I hope that staff will address those issues. There's some that look pretty bad at this point. That causes an additional problem when we finally do get to mow that high grass. It gets put out in the street, gets into the storm sewers, and that causes more problems. So keep that, if you've got a neighbor or something, you might advise them of the potential problems of getting it out in the street. Also, lastly, I'm sorry I'm so long-winded, but keep the servicemen and women in your prayers in the Mideast. There's some tensions going on, and we don't know what's going to happen from day to day. So keep the military and always the emergency responders in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Mrs. Larson?
Excited about the things that are going on in our city and the additional activities that we have over each day, each week, especially in the past. It's a whole lot more, but good things. I also want to make a few comments that I feel that while every position held in this city is vital to the Bethany sustainability, and the city judge, the city attorney, the city manager are perhaps the most vital as the heads that keep our city accountable, legal, and functioning on a day-to-day basis. The city council is responsible for 3 positions. The employee of those 3 positions is not taken lightly, but with careful consideration and diligence and scrutiny. The City of Bethany Charter is very clear about the qualifications and duties of the positions that we are in charge of. At present, this council is tasked with the fulfilling of the city attorney and the city manager's position. Article 3 of our charter, Section 3.1, states that there shall be a city manager council shall appoint for an indefinite term by a majority of the vote of its members. The city manager shall, at time of appointment, have a bachelor degree from an accredited university and college and in a field which the council deems appropriate and must during tenure reside within the city. The charter further allows in Section 3.2 provisions for an acting city manager, not an interim, not temporary, but acting, who is to perform duties on a temporary absence or disability of the city manager. If the council suspends the city manager or there is a vacancy in the office of city manager, the council may appoint, again, acting city manager, until such time another is appointed. And I quote this from the charter. The council shall appoint a new city manager within 6 months after the office of the city manager becomes vacant. Council members, the charter is very clear of our duties for hiring in this position. We are negligent in our own laws. We are not abiding to policy and procedures. We are wasting time. We are being frivolous with our taxpayers' money. We are being unprofessional. In 3 years, 8 have been placed in the city manager chair. 2 were hired, and the remainder were called interim, though the charter calls it acting. After 2 solicitations for applications, the city manager and attorney search committee has received 30 applications for city manager. A letter of continued interest was sent to the first applicants received, and I find it interesting that all the applications first received were not read by all the committee members, though feel that they probably were have at once now all been in hand and have been read. We have elected 5 candidates and 2 alternates. The committee of 3 was able to select 4 from the applications of 2 alternates. 1 member was emphatic to add the name of an interim city manager, someone who had not followed the process as others, who in fact received copies of all applications throughout the process, who does not hold a degree. At the time of his hiring, told some of us only plan to stay was for 6 months. Then he expressed desire for another 6 months, and now expresses desire for 2 years. Why would this council waste
Point
time
of order,
putting
Mayor.
someone through the process
This
who
is
initially did
executive
not
session
desire a
comment.
Yeah,
long-term,
this-
holds outside?
We just hold on, excuse me. We give the citizens 3
I'm
minutes.
just about through.
We
I
give,
have one
no,
par-
hold it. We give the citizens 3 minutes, you're not going to take 30 reading something.
I have one more paragraph, please.
Part of what you just said was discussed in executive session.
This was open. It is time to do our jobs. It's time to abide by policy and procedures. It's time to make a decision. It's time to quit wasting time, energy, and taxpayers' money. It's time to get things done. It's time to stop having 2 or 3 council members make the city of Bethany the laughing stock of Oklahoma. I would hope others of this council would join me in making the decision to do just the right thing, what we were elected to do in the best interest of our citizens and the sustaining of our home. Thank you.
Thank you. I just added to what I was going to say. I'm sorry. It wasn't going to be that long. I don't believe 2 or 3 council members are embarrassing our city. I believe there's some sitting up here that weren't elected by anybody. They just sat in a seat because it ran unopposed. I formed this city manager search committee and waited, which they've been meeting, the 3 of them. And I waited specifically so that this council that's seated here on this horseshoe had a voice into who the city manager was going to be. Because we could have hired one with the previous council and you had no voice. And so, yeah, we are in violation of our charter. We're fully aware of that. But you're on the committee, and we expect this committee to successfully narrow down those candidates so that they can be interviewed and we can hire somebody. I do not think it's right to sit on this horseshoe and try to belittle other council members or anything like that. That's ridiculous. I will say that I'm very excited about some stuff. I'm excited about the new LED lighting that will be going on from 16th to 23rd on Rockwell. That will help hopefully reduce crime and brighten up the area. I'm excited about the addition to Garrison Park that we did Friday night with the ribbon cutting of the soccer wall. I do know that Mr. Phil Stowell has gotten a report he sent to me today from the company, because they document all this online and we can see how many games were played, how many people played on it, what kind of activities have gone on. Even I believe I saw something, how many calories were burnt per player, something like that. It's pretty cool. Also, I'm excited about the Blue Goose, the meeting we had today, of seeing something that has been ongoing for quite some time come to fruition and completion, and will be right there in Eldon Lyon Park. I'm also amazed that students from Francis Tuttle actually had their hands in doing that. That's pretty impressive. And I would also like to remind everybody that we have had discussions and we have a dream and a passion of having a veterans monument to honor those men and women that are in our service and have served and possibly will serve one day. And we want that to be a fundraising effort and funded by the great citizens of Bethany because they're passionate about it. I have a wax rendering of what it could be like in my office that I'm afraid to touch because it's made of wax. And so one day, hopefully, that or something like that will be much larger, sitting in Eldon Line Park with people coming from everywhere to see it. So I'm excited about that. And that is all I have. Item 15 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until July 2nd, 2019. I call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item 1 is the consent docket, A through C. Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion to
moved.
approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is consideration and possible approval of resolution number 1547, a resolution of the trustees of the Bethany Public Works Authority adopting the fiscal year 2020 budget, appropriating funds for capital improvements for specified equipment and projects, and establishing a target emergency reserve fund balance. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 3 is consideration and possible award of bid for water treatment plant, Quick Lime to Mississippi Lime Company. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 4 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until July 2nd, 2019. I call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item 1 is the consent docket, A through C. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is consideration and possible approval of resolution number 1548, a resolution of the trustees of Bethany Hospital Trust adopting the fiscal year 2020 budget. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 3 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until July 2nd, 2019. I call to order the Bethany Development Authority. Consent docket item 1, A through C. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is consideration and possible approval of resolution number 1549, a resolution of the trustees of the Bethany Development Authority adopting the fiscal year 2020 budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 3 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until July 2nd, 2019. With that, we are adjourned.